Nintendo is known to be a family-friendly company when it comes to their games. Most of first-party titles are usually for all ages. It's something we've come to expect out of them, with Nintendo even going out of their way to add parental guidance on consoles like the Switch, letting parents keep track of what their kids play, and restrict other content that may seem too mature. So Nintendo seems to be pretty strict on keeping the innocence in video games, unlike pretty much every other company out there. But while most of their games don't feature any mature themes to them, it doesn't feel like their games cater to a specific demographic. Their games are meant to be played by all ages, not just kids. It's a trait Nintendo has followed since the beginning of their gaming history, and what makes them so special. And The Legend of Zelda has been no exception to that. Almost every game within the series has an E for everyone or E10 and up rating, with the exception of games like Twilight Princess being T for teen. So it sure surprised me that Nintendo would go out of their way to sneak in subliminal jokes and sexual innuendos within the series. As a kid, most of these jokes would fly past me as I was too innocent to realize them. But looking back at it now, I find it hilarious that Nintendo would actually go there. Especially with how many that can be found within their latest game within the series, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Nintendo went to the extent of having animals poof into meat on kill, to avoid anything graphic for kids, yet for some reason took their time to add random dirty jokes within the game. So in this video, I'll be going through all the jokes Nintendo went out of their way to add in Breath of the Wild, along the few others that made their way into the series. I know making this sort of video will ruin the innuendos and jokes, removing the innocence from them, but let's be honest, if you're on the internet, your innocence is already ruined. Link isn't much of a ladies' man, yet for some reason women can't resist him. Or men. Or even fish people. And I mean, who can blame them, right? Nintendo has made it obvious that Link is really attractive in Breath of the Wild. From having characters that admire Link's features to pointing out that he is totally their type. It's almost as if all of Hyrule has a thing for Link. And with the option of being able to swap Link's look with different attire, some characters give different responses depending on Link's clothes. Like when wearing no clothes and having Bolson admire Link's perkiness. Or having Link cross-dress in order to trick a poor guy out of both of his pair of boots and denying him on a date afterwards. Link knows he's hot, regardless of what sex people think he is. And while Breath of the Wild isn't the first game to acknowledge that Link is attractive, it sure takes it to another level. In past titles, Nintendo has made slight remarks about Link being handsome, with characters like the Poe Collector from Ocarina of Time straight up telling Link that if he looked as good as him, he would run a different kind of business. Or how Nabru tells Link after awakening as a sage that if she knew Link would have been this handsome, she would have kept her promise that she made back when he was a kid. Which really makes you wonder what that promise was, especially if he was a kid then. Though surprisingly enough, Nintendo's first sexual innuendo with Link was way back in Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. While this is a bit vague, and you may have to have a dirty mind to think of this, in the game's first town, Rauru, there is this lady that will heal Link's HP if he comes inside the house with her. After a few seconds, Link will come out healed. I know anything could have happened in there, but the context makes you wonder, But while Link seems to charm everyone in Hyrule, he was never given an actual love interest, nor has it ever been confirmed. And while many people think it must be Zelda, it could really be anybody. Regardless, he has had many women and men admire his looks on his adventures, but never to the extent of one specific person. That person being Paya from Breath of the Wild. Paya has a huge obsession with Link that should be obvious just by speaking with her. She is clearly infatuated by Link being Hyrule's hero, but it does seem to be a bit more than that. Paya actually has a diary where she writes down her thoughts, and it mainly has to do with Link. She mentions in it how much she's in love with Link, while also describing his looks, going into his blonde sideburns that flow like a golden waterfall, or how embarrassed she gets over his gorgeous gaze and his wonderful eyes. She even questions in it that if Link is in love with Princess Zelda, and that just the thought of it hurts her heart. Paya can't seem to help her feelings for Link, but understands that he has a far greater purpose to serve. While she doesn't do a good job keeping it a secret, as you can easily find her diary in her room, and if she happens to see you try reading it, she will urge and prevent you not to, but you can always read it when she's not in the room, so. Though that isn't the only secret Paya is hiding. If you happen to ask her about her story, she will explain to Link the reason she was named Paya, with the reason being that she has a birthmark shaped like a papaya seed. And if you ask her where the birthmark is, she will get real embarrassed and mention that it's on her left something. Before, Impa interrupts and straight up says that it's smack in the middle of her left butt cheek. I don't know why Nintendo felt the need to add this, but I find it hilarious nonetheless. I love her reaction to Impa when she mentions it, along with how embarrassed she gets when seeing Link without any attire. But outside of Paya's obsession with Link, Link has seemed to attract more than just his kind, with even the great fairies of Hyrule wanting a piece of him. Which I find odd in size comparison. Link is like an action figure compared to them. The great fairies are known as four sisters that can be found in their respective fountains located in the four corners of Hyrule. Each fairy can upgrade Link's attire with other material, but with each upgrade, the fairies get a little more physical with Link. For example, when upgrading anything for the first time, the Great Fairy will blow Link a kiss. Nothing crazy at all. And when upgrading for a second time, the Great Fairy will kiss her own finger and tap Link on the face. Still not too weird, but when you upgrade the same item for a third time, she goes in for a smooch. And Link's expression is priceless when he sees her going in for it. But what takes this to a whole other level is what happens when Link fully upgrades an item, that being the fourth and final time. Instead of just kissing Link, she grabs him like a little toy and cuddles him close as she takes him into the fountain with her. Seeing Hyrule's hero grabbed like a damn toy is probably the funniest thing I've seen in the series. Like, this is actually canon. But once the Great Fairy is done, you'll find Link collapsed on the ground before getting back up. It sure makes you wonder what happened down there. Speaking of Great Fairies, they always seemed somewhat sexualized throughout the series with how they were dressed, or how little they dress. With Twilight Princess having its interpretation be completely topless. But I always found them to be very creepy. Unlike the swordsman trainer in Majora's Mask, who finds the Great Fairy to be very beautiful, as when you speak to him with any mask on, he'll usually have a remark to say about said mask. But when he sees Link in the Great Fairy's mask, he can't resist himself, saying he'll lose focus if he tries to instruct Link while wearing that mask. And speaking about losing focus, Link sure loses his when he's first greeted to Telma in Twilight Princess. I don't think your eyes are down there, my dude. But outside of obvious observations, Nintendo seems to like to have subtle jokes that some may not catch at first. Like Kenna from Skyward Sword, who mentions to Link that she wishes she could find someone who's good at plowing. Or how in Ocarina of Time, if you wear the spooky mask and speak to the carpenter in Kakariko Village, he will tell Link that he has some good quality wood there. Or another example with Breath of the Wild, as in the Journal of Various Worries, you can read an entry from the lonely arrow girl, as she writes how she wishes Link would come by and knock an arrow for her, and that it's been so long since. But outside of innuendos, because you could go on with these for days if you have a dirty mind. And I don't think anyone would consider something like when Orca from the Wind Waker tells Link to keep thrusting when teaching him how to use a sword, that it was meant to be an innuendo. Or was it? No. Another rather subtle joke that isn't text-related is a giant statue found in the Spirit Temple of Ocarina of Time. If you try to hookshot on any part of the statue, it clearly won't work. But for some odd reason, if you aim for where the nipples would be on the statue, Link will hookshot to it. It does absolutely nothing, but makes you wonder why the developers went there. Is it for those weird enough to try it? Also, don't ask me how I figured this out. Moving on to another questionable thing within the series, I always wondered why they would have the mention of alcohol if Link is considered too young to drink. For Majora's Mask, the game had a milk bar which acted as an actual bar. While it is known to sell milk, characters like Cremia mention how the milk fills you up with magic power, but that it's only for grown-ups. And if that wasn't enough proof, you can also find Gorman get blasted drunk at the milk bar and question if milk makes you tipsy. The game also makes it clear with only allowing Link to purchase to drink when he has the Romani's mask, making him a member of the bar, as the mask is only for adults. Though, unlike in Majora's Mask, with alcohol being known as a form of milk, in Breath of the Wild, Nintendo makes a much more obvious hint to alcohol use with the Noble Canteen found in Gerudo Town. The Noble Canteen is a 24/7 bar for the women of Gerudo, and while Link isn't of age to drink, he can at least hang out with the locals there. There you'll find Poki after completing her shrine quest, as she can't wait to drink the Noble Pursuit, which is her favorite alcoholic beverage that can send her running across the desert just for that drink. She seems a bit too excited for that drink. You can also find other Gerudo drink their sorrows away, with one trying not to think of any men as she sleeps at the bar, or one who stayed too long at the bar, she forgot her own address home. She may want to come back to that with a clear head. But speaking about the Gerudo, Gerudo Town has a school that teaches the Gerudo women on how to date and seek out a beau, as they are only a race of women, so if they want to find a man, they would have to seek him outside their town. In the class, Link can observe on how the way the Gerudo women are taught to look for a special someone. While listening to their class, for some reason every response that the student Risa has to give is a bit much, with mentioning how she would strike a fierce blow when just confronting a man, or how if she found a man on the ground unconscious, she would secretly bring him back home to have him recover there, pretty much implying both assault and kidnapping. And if that wasn't enough, she also mentions how she would just twist a foe's wrist until he agreed to marry her. Clearly, she may need a few more classes before going out there, as I don't think she knows how to deal with guys. But according to Risa herself, this is just a refresher class. Yeah, I think she has a bit more studying to do. And while we're still on the topic about the Gerudo, Link can only get his way into the town by tricking the Gerudo that he's a female while cross-dressing, as Gerudo Town only welcomes females, and even Hyrule's hero is still no exception. But something that puzzles me is why they let the Gorons in. Now, from what we know so far, Gorons probably are asexual and have asexual reproduction. I mean, I don't know how they have babies. They probably poop out a rock and it turns into a Goron or something. But one thing to note is that they consider themselves as males, with the two Gorons in Gerudo Town mentioning how they are surprised they were even let in, and that they are really shy to be around so many girls. I get that most Gerudo women must look for vows outside their race in town, as they're known to be a race of only females. But what about the Gorons? Are they forever alone? Were they let in the town because, even the Gerudo can't identify what gender they are? Anyways, that about does it for